A simple traffic ticket can turn into a $3,500 legal problem in less than 2 minutes. One wrong sentence can change a warning into a vehicle search. One small gesture can turn your silence into consent. In this video, I'll show you 17 things police officers cannot legally force you to do during a traffic stop. If you've ever been pulled over, there's a good chance you've already made at least one of these mistakes. Let's break down what they legally cannot force you to do. Number 1, your right to remain silent. No one can take away your constitutional right to remain silent. This right comes from the Fifth Amendment, which protects you from self-incrimination. You can always refuse to answer questions beyond what the law requires even after a traffic stop. A simple, clear statement works best: I am invoking my right to remain silent, and I want a lawyer. Once you say this, officers must stop questioning you until your attorney is present. They cannot twist your silence into guilt, and they cannot force you to speak or explain yourself. Remember, being polite does not mean giving up your rights. You can cooperate by providing ID and documents while staying silent on everything else. Invoking your right is the strongest protection during a traffic stop. It prevents accidental admissions, protects your future legal options, and ensures the encounter stays within the law. Everything you've learned here protects you in front of an officer, but it won't help if a reckless driver is tailing you. If that ever happens, hesitation is a mistake. Watch what to do immediately, link below. Number 2, asking, am I being detained? You have the right to ask if you are being legally detained. Police cannot punish you for asking this question. It helps clarify whether you are free to leave or still under lawful detention. You can calmly say, am I being detained, or am I free to go? The law requires officers to have a valid reason to hold you beyond the original traffic stop. If they cannot clearly explain a legitimate reason, you have the right to walk away once the stop is complete. This question is simple but powerful. It puts the burden on the officer to justify continuing the detention and prevents stops from being unnecessarily extended. Asking this does not escalate the situation. It is a legal way to assert your rights without confrontation. And finally, there's one right that always protects you no matter what happens next. Number 3, filming. Police recording police officers in public is protected under the First Amendment. You cannot be arrested just for filming, as long as you do not interfere with their duties. This means your phone, camera, or dash cam can capture video or audio of the stop. You are allowed to document what happens, including interactions, citations, or searches, without fear of automatic arrest. If an officer tells you to stop filming, you can calmly say, I am legally recording in a public space and will not interfere. The only limit is interference. Physically blocking, touching, or distracting an officer could be considered obstruction. Standing at a safe distance and keeping your device to yourself keeps you fully within your rights. Filming protects both you and others by creating an accurate record. It's not disrespectful, it's a legal safeguard. Recording keeps things honest. But this brings up another question. How do you know when you are even being held? Number 4, signing a ticket. In many states, you cannot be forced to sign a traffic ticket. Signing a ticket is usually not an admission of guilt. It simply acknowledges that you received the citation. Refusing to sign does not automatically lead to arrest in most cases. If an officer insists, you can politely say, I am refusing to sign this ticket, but I understand I will contest it in court. The purpose of a signature is procedural, it shows you were given notice. It does not waive your right to challenge the ticket later. Even if an officer threatens arrest, it is often a bluff. The law requires that your case be handled through the proper judicial process, not just by signing a paper. Remaining calm and firm protects your rights while showing cooperation without giving up legal protections. Signing is optional. Contesting is your choice. And if you think staying silent is enough, remember, even filming the stop could be questioned, so know your right. Number 5, don't believe lies about the law. Officers cannot legally force you to comply by misstating the law. Statements like, you have to let me search, or, if you don't cooperate, I can arrest you, are often used to pressure you. They are not necessarily true. During traffic stops, some officers use these tactics to get compliance, not to explain your rights. The law does not require you to consent to searches, answer extra questions, unlock your vehicle. Just because an officer claims you must. You can respond calmly, "I don't consent and I choose to follow the law." You don't need to argue, quote statutes, or raise your voice. Consent gained through false legal claims is not valid. Consent must be knowing and voluntary, not based on fear or misinformation. If an officer truly has legal authority, they don't need to bluff. Knowing this helps you stay grounded and prevents you from giving up your rights under pressure. Even things like signatures can be pressured, but remember, they aren't always legally required either. Number 6, confiscating property without cause. Officers cannot take your belongings, cash, bags, electronics, or personal items without a valid legal reason. Simply being at a traffic stop does not give them ownership of your stuff. If an officer tries to seize your property, you can firmly say, "I do not consent to the seizure of my property." The Fourth Amendment protects you from unreasonable seizures. This means officers need probable cause, a warrant, or your consent to take anything. Taking property without cause is illegal even if the officer claims it's for safety or evidence preservation. Keep your items visible, but do not hand them over voluntarily unless legally required. Confiscation without justification can lead to evidence being suppressed in court, and in some cases, officers may face disciplinary action. Protecting your property during a stop is as important as staying silent or refusing searches. Don't let clever words or pressure trick you. Sometimes officers may bend the rules to get what they want, but your rights are clear. Number 7, unlocking your car or trunk. Officers cannot force you to unlock your vehicle or trunk without a warrant, probable cause, or your clear consent. Simply being pulled over does not give them automatic access. If an officer demands, you can calmly say, "I do not consent to any searches of my vehicle." Remember, unlocking your car voluntarily counts as consent, even if you later regret it. Anything they see afterward can be used as evidence. That's why a firm refusal is important if you want to protect your rights. Exceptions exist only if they see illegal items in plain view, smell drugs, or have another lawful reason. Outside of these situations, no officer can legally force access to your car or trunk. Keeping your doors locked and your hands visible protects both you and your property. Consent is yours to give or withhold. Even your personal belongings cannot be taken just because an officer asks politely. Number 8, nervousness is not consent. Feeling nervous during a traffic stop is completely normal, and officers cannot use it as a reason to demand consent for searches or extra questioning. Anxiety, sweating, or fidgeting is not evidence of wrongdoing. If an officer says, "You seem nervous. Mind if I check your car?" you can firmly respond, "I do not consent to any searches." Courts recognize that nervous behavior is common among drivers and does not automatically create probable cause. Being polite and cooperative with your ID and documents while refusing extra consent does not make you suspicious. Officers are trained to notice micro-expressions and body language, but none of it replaces the law. Consent must be clear, voluntary, and informed. Your nerves cannot legally be used against you. Keeping control of your responses ensures the stop stays within legal limits. Nervousness is human. It does not waive your rights. Your nerves aren't a green light for them to search your trunk or unlock your doors. Number 9, extending the stop without a valid reason. Once the traffic violation is handled, like giving your license, registration, and insurance, the officer cannot legally prolong the stop without a real reason. Any attempt to drag it out to ask extra questions or investigate unrelated issues crosses legal boundaries. You can politely ask, "Am I being detained, or am I free to leave?" If the officer cannot point to a lawful reason, keeping you longer is considered an unlawful detention. The law is clear: traffic stops must be limited in scope and time to the reason the stop began. Extensions without cause could include asking to search your car, questioning about unrelated topics, waiting for a K9 unit without probable cause. You have the right to end the encounter once the legal purpose of the stop is complete. Being aware of this protects your rights and prevents unnecessary delays. Sometimes, officers might try to push you just based on how they feel in the moment. Don't let that trick you. Number 10, searching passengers without cause. Passengers in a vehicle have their own rights during a traffic stop. Officers cannot search or pat down passengers without a specific legal reason, like probable cause or suspicion of a crime. Simply being in the car does not make a passenger automatically subject to searches. Even if the driver consents to a search, that does not apply to other people in the vehicle. Each person has separate protections under the Fourth Amendment. If asked to hand over personal items or step out for a search, passengers can calmly say, "I do not consent to a search." Officers might claim that nervous behavior or movement gives them cause, but in most cases, passengers cannot be forced unless there is a clear threat, illegal activity, or a court order. Knowing this helps passengers protect their rights and prevents evidence from being collected improperly. Staying silent or politely refusing is completely legal. And before you think the stop is over, quick tip: if you care about protecting your car, check out my video linked above showing simple tricks to stop car theft in just 3 seconds. It's worth watching. Number 11. Performing field sobriety tests. You are not automatically required to perform field sobriety tests during a traffic stop. These tests may include walking in a straight line, touching your nose, or standing on one leg. Officers can ask you to do them, but in most cases, these tests are voluntary unless you have already been arrested for DUI. Refusing a field sobriety test is not the same as admitting guilt. However, some states have implied consent laws for chemical tests, such as breathalyzers. Field sobriety tests are different from mandatory chemical testing. If asked, you can respond calmly and clearly, "I do not consent to field sobriety tests." Many of these tests can be difficult even for sober people. They can be affected by your shoes, balance, medical conditions, or nervousness. Performing them may increase suspicion, even if you have done nothing wrong. Refusing the test can help protect your legal options and prevent evidence from being misunderstood. And remember, it's not just drivers who have rights. Passengers in your vehicle have rights too. Number 12. Admitting fault or guilt. You are never required to admit fault or guilt during a traffic stop. Even a simple comment like, "I guess I missed the sign," can later be used against you in court or in an insurance claim. A traffic stop is meant to enforce the law, not to get a confession. Anything you say beyond providing your ID and vehicle documents can become evidence. That includes apologizing, explaining, or trying to justify your actions. A safer approach is to keep your response neutral. For example, "I'm not discussing the incident." Admitting guilt can sometimes lead to more serious consequences. An officer may turn a warning into a citation or even escalate the situation based on your own words. Your words matter more than your tone. Choosing not to admit fault does not make you rude or uncooperative. It simply keeps the focus on what the law requires, not on your personal statements. When it comes to guilt, silence can be powerful. And speaking of mistakes, some tests are designed to make you look guilty, even when you are not. Number 13. Answering questions after giving your ID. After you provide your driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance, you are not required to answer more questions. Giving your ID fulfills your legal obligation during a traffic stop. Any questions beyond that, about your job, where you are going, or your personal life, are optional. You can politely decline without making the situation worse. A simple response works: "I've provided my ID. I choose not to answer further questions." Refusing to answer additional questions does not automatically make you suspicious. Officers may say things like, "It'll go easier if you just answer." But that is a tactic, not a legal requirement. Answering casual questions can sometimes lead to accidental self-incrimination. Saying where you were or who you were with could unintentionally create evidence. Staying silent after providing your ID helps protect you while still remaining calm and respectful. Because sometimes, admitting too much can cost more than you realize. Number 14. Handing over your phone. Your phone is not open for inspection during a traffic stop. Police cannot force you to hand it over, unlock it, or allow them to scroll through it without a warrant or your clear consent. This protection comes from the Fourth Amendment. Courts have ruled that phones contain highly private information, such as messages, photos, and location history. Searching a phone is much more invasive than checking a wallet. That is why officers usually need a judge's approval. If an officer says, "Let me see your phone," you can calmly respond, "I do not consent to searches of my phone." You are not required to share your passcode, PIN, or unlock pattern. In many states, you can also refuse biometric access, such as Face ID or a fingerprint, unless a warrant specifically allows it. Simply holding your phone, recording, or sending a text does not mean you gave consent. Nervousness is not consent. Silence is not consent. Once a phone is unlocked, everything inside can potentially be used as evidence, contacts, old messages, even deleted data. Keep control of your device. The law gives you that right. Your phone may be protected, but once you hand over your ID, the questioning does not always stop. Number 15. Stepping out of your car. Police cannot force you out of your car just because they want to. During a normal traffic stop, you are allowed to stay inside your vehicle unless the officer has a valid safety reason. The key word here is reason. Courts allow officers to order a driver out only if there is a real safety concern, such as a visible weapon, aggressive behavior, or a clear threat. Standard procedure is not the same as law. If an officer says, "Step out of the vehicle," you can calmly ask, "Am I being ordered out for safety reasons?" If there is no clear safety reason, you may legally remain seated. Staying calm helps. Keep your hands visible, leave your seatbelt on, and turn off the engine. This removes most claims about safety concerns. Stepping out can quickly change the situation. It gives officers more control and more opportunities to question or search you. That's why the law sets limits. You do not lose your rights just because you are driving. A traffic stop is not an open-ended command zone. It has boundaries, and this is one of them. Now, what about your phone? Can they make you hand it over? Number 16. Consent to a vehicle search. Police cannot search your vehicle just because they ask. They need either probable cause or a warrant. This protection comes from the Fourth Amendment, which protects you from unreasonable searches and seizures. Here's the important part: consent must be voluntary. If an officer says, "Do you mind if I take a quick look?" that is a request, not an order. You have the right to say no. Be clear and direct. You can say, "I do not consent to any searches." Silence, hesitation, or nervous behavior does not mean consent. Courts require consent to be clear and intentional. Be careful with your actions. Opening your door, stepping aside, or shrugging could be interpreted as giving permission, so avoid doing that. Also remember, refusing a search is not suspicious. Police cannot legally punish you, extend the stop, or search your vehicle just because you said no. If they search without your consent, they must clearly state their legal reason. You can refuse a search, but that does not always mean they won't ask you to step out of the vehicle. Number 17. During a traffic stop, police cannot force you to explain where you're coming from or where you're going. That question may sound casual, but you are not legally required to answer it. In the United States, this right comes from the Fifth Amendment. It protects you from being forced to say something that could be used against you. There is no federal law that requires drivers to explain where they were, where they are going, who they visited, or why they are on the road. The legal purpose of a traffic stop is limited. Officers can check your driver's license, registration, and insurance, and handle the traffic violation. That's it. If an officer asks, "Where are you headed?" you can calmly say, "I'm not answering questions." That response is legal. It does not automatically give the police a reason to search you. Courts have repeatedly ruled that simply refusing to answer questions is not suspicious. Silence alone cannot justify a search, longer detention, or arrest. You now know what you are required to answer, but what about searches? What are you allowed to refuse?